And we're back with another football preview. We're joined by Brandon LaRocco, head coach of Justin-Siena, along with seniors Noah Young and Hudson Beers. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having
So
us on, Kyle.
first of all, let's just go right into it. How happy are you guys to be back, and how's it been so far being back?
I'll let you guys go first.
Buddy, you got this.
All right, I got. It feels really good to be back. You know, we've been working hard since June of last year for a chance to play. Now that chance to actually play is here, we're ecstatic.
Noah?
Yeah, man. I mean, can't say anything better than that. I mean, been working for a very, very long time, and happy to get what I can get.
Absolutely. I think it's been a lot of ups and downs over the course of the last 9 months it's been, right? It's been like pushbacks and no answering and like, oh, we're gonna tell you later, we're gonna tell you later. So I think when we finally got the news that they were gonna let it happen, it's like almost like a sense of like, yeah, right. Like they're gonna pull it back again. But it seems we're getting closer and it seems like it's gonna happen here. So we've been in pads the last couple of days, kind of getting out there, popping a little bit. And it just, I don't know. In some senses, like I go out there sometimes and I'm like, I can't believe we're here. Like, I can't believe we're actually getting to do this now. Felt like it wasn't going to happen for so long. So a lot of excitement.
So on top of that, I've heard from the other schools in town that they've been doing their stuff in pods over the summer and all that kind of thing. I know you guys are similar because I saw that over the summer. How has it been getting the whole team back together in one formal team setting? Like with all the protocols.
It's been pretty good so far, right? So like, it's like the first time you had the whole team on the field, I don't know, it just feels different, right? Because we've been in such small groups for so long. So I think in a lot of senses, it's a little crazy just to see everybody out there together again. You know, we have our JV and varsity on the one half, and we're just having that many kids on the field is again, like I said before, it almost feels like we were never going to get there. So it's exciting, definitely exciting. I don't know how it has been for you guys, but for me, it's definitely been exciting.
No, yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun so far. Because I don't know about everyone else, but personally, I convinced myself that we weren't going to play this year. I just didn't think it was going to happen. So now that it's actually happening and being out there with everyone, it's really exciting.
So this next question is kind of a loaded one, but Brandon, how are you gonna adjust going right into another season? And then Noah and Hudson, I know you guys are multi-sport athletes, so are you guys gonna be able to play another sport? Like, what's that gonna look like when football ends?
I know for baseball, I'm gonna be fine. I know I've my dad showed me a schedule, and after our last game of football, I got a week, and then it's baseball season. So I know I'm gonna play, so it'll be fun.
And then I'm just strictly football this year. After football, it's probably just going to be training until I figure out what I'm going to do next year.
Gotcha. Brandon, going
Yeah,
right
I mean,
back
honestly, the most concerning thing really is just making sure we get our gear reconditioned back in time, right? That's a tight turnaround on that window. So, but in terms of, you know, like recovery of the kids, we've been training pretty hard. So, and it's a shortened season, right? It's 6 games. So usually we're used to playing double that. So I think in terms of, you know, physical impact, it's recoverable. You know, the recovery time is about half, but the games are about half. So it should be okay. The interesting part is going to be in the summer because we're going to get a late start in the summer because of the second season pushing into June a little bit more. So that's going to kind of push us back from when we could start. So, and I'm not exactly sure what spring ball will look at. Frankly, I haven't thought that far ahead, but just kind of thinking about that stuff. Those would be the things I'm thinking about.
Sorry to put a little early stress in your mind, but anyway, so
all right.
So looking ahead to the season, you guys begin the season against Petaluma, but the one team you don't play is Casa Grande. And I know that team is there's 2 ways you can look at this. Either you're happy to not see them at this point, or you don't get that chance at revenge. What are your thoughts on not seeing the Gauchos this year?
I mean, we want to play everybody, right? So as much as we can, we want to get on the field with everybody. So we don't want to lose any games. So losing a game against Casa, I mean, obviously we've had 2 really tight games against those guys. So it's a competitive game for us. Has been the last 2 years. They've gotten the better out of it the last 2 years, but you know, it just sucks to be losing the game at all. We were really hoping we could get the whole league schedule and have that intact.
players?
Yeah, I was kind of bummed when I heard we were playing them, just because we want to play that full league schedule. I have some 7-on-7 teammates that are on that team, so it was kind of like we were excited to play each other and see who comes out on top. So definitely kind of bummed out, but we added a game to our schedule and we're just gonna focus on that.
No.
Yeah, I mean they're fun to play. Good competition. So
Let's talk about that game you added. I saw St. Vincent de Paul. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah.
Go ahead and elaborate on how that sort of came about and why it's happening. Obviously, we know the bye, but
Right. So Trent Herzog and I were part of a group of Northern California Catholic school coaches that had just been kind of in communication a lot throughout all this COVID stuff, just trying to kind of figure out what our path forward was, kind of how everyone's approaching things, trying to just collaborate as, a community basically. So we met for the first time as part of that. And then he reached out to me when we got our schedule posted and was like, hey, we happen to have the same bye. Are you interested in playing? And I had just found out that we lost the Casa game at that point. So I doing what we could to get these guys 6 games. I mean, that was the goal, right? Get these guys 6 games. They deserve to play 6. So we did do what we could to make that happen. And fortunately, he reached out and we were able to make it work. So I'm excited about picking that up. I know they had a couple of really good players on that team last year. So we had a pretty good running back if my memory serves me correctly. So looking forward to just getting that 6th game.
as far as I know, that's the only non-league game that's happening in town here. Like, so I mean, that's kind of cool that you guys are playing the only non-league game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Vintage, it looked out, right? Having the Week 10 bye for the first time in the history of football turned out to be a good thing, right? So they got all 6 of their games, and I know it's probably tough on Napa to find a game that first week, right? So much going on. We're trying to figure out testing and all the protocols that everybody has to go through. So I just kind of lucked into it, I guess.
My next question is, since we're talking about the local schools here, that week is in between the 2 local schools. So I would think that normally, like, dang, physical game with Vintage coming up after a game with Napa, that's always emotional. Like, obviously you wanted to play football. So is it just getting back to the grind, keep the kids focused before getting out to face Vintage?
Yeah, I mean, I think the kids can answer probably better than me, but I think just getting as many games as possible, right, being the primary focus.
Yeah, definitely, especially for like the seniors. We wanted to get as many games as possible in this year, so just getting those 6 games will be good.
yeah, I mean, it was pretty much whatever as long as we get to play.
And normally we buy after the Vintage game. So our buy traditionally be between Vintage and AC. So playing Napa and Vintage back to back is what we've done the last 2 years. So it's not a huge pivot for us.
Makes sense. I mean, I know last year both games against the local schools were close, so I'm sure you guys, they were closer than the score indicated, from what being at the games last year. I mean, 2 years ago. But anyway, I'm sure you guys always have those games circled on your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like playing the local schools. It's being the VVL has been a lot of fun. So the MCAL was a good league. I know I enjoyed the competition there, but I don't know, that first game we played Vintage at home, right? The whole stadium was packed and we hadn't had attendance like that in a game in a long time. So there's just that kind of extra. I would guess we won't get to experience that this year necessarily, but still the buzz and like the in-town, and I don't want to say rivalry necessarily, but just that close contact, right? The school's close proximity, right? Just kind of puts a little bit more on those games. So, but honestly, I feel that way about the whole league. I feel like every time we're playing somebody, because the whole Napa Sonoma thing, right? The whole Napa Sonoma rivalry and then the in-town stuff. So it's always feel like there's something extra going on.
Hudson, Noah, you guys can talk about this too.
I just like playing.
Yeah, I'm right there with it. Doesn't matter who we're playing.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really care.
I mean, you guys do get to go and face Sonoma this year in Sonoma, and I know that has also been a game I haven't experienced this because I'm not as close with that type of with your school, but since I didn't go there, but I know that means a lot to you guys. Can you guys talk a little bit about that game, the Sonoma game?
I mean, I know we've had like in the past a lot of players on our team from Sonoma, and they know a lot of kids on the Sonoma team, and so for them, it's kind of a game they circle on the schedule for themselves personally. But Yeah, it's definitely fun. Last year was a lot of fun playing them in our homecoming game, but yeah, other than that, it's just another game, really.
So, you guys return a lot of talent. I know you two for sure. I don't know who else you guys return, but you two are a good start. Brandon, you can talk a little about who returns, and then they can add in.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously having Hudson and Noah back, yeah, our backfield is back from last year, right? So that's a good starting point. We lost a lot of good receivers to graduation. 3 college level wide receivers, tight ends, however you want to classify Miles. And he's kind of a hybrid player, really, at the end of the day. But we have good guys coming up, right? And I think, I watched Noah's progression as a running back and getting a little bit more experience under his belt, a little bit more physicality this year. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, all the things you want to see as a kid gets older. Hudson's understanding of the offense obviously has evolved as he's gotten more reps in the system, and his ability to place the ball where he wants it has gotten a lot better. I've noticed that definitely in practice this year. So other guys on offense, I don't know, Hudson, who are you looking forward to getting the ball to this year?
One in particular, I think Seth Morrison playing receiver for us. He's a senior. He'll be, a good weapon to have. He started last year, but with 3 college level receivers in front of him, he didn't get the ball that much. So I'm looking forward to seeing him make some plays for us.
How are you guys looking at the line? I mean, I know you guys.
I can tell you a little bit something about the line.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Let's hear it.
We got 2 seniors, Angel Garcia and Wyatt Humphreys. They're returning, and 2 really big dudes. I mean, we got a few JV guys on there, looking good. A lot of speed on our line, so looking forward to working with them.
Brandon?
Yeah, I think Angel and Wyatt both really developed this offseason. I think Noah hit the nail on the head, right? They're both returning starters from last year's team. Angel was primarily a defensive player. He played nose for us, and he will again this year. And Wyatt was our starting left tackle last year. I give the seniors a lot of credit. These guys were in the weight room pretty much nonstop since we started in June, right? I mean, we had a couple of breaks here and there, but this was not a group that I had a hard time getting to show up to work out. They just, I think, given what they lost, right, they were chomping at the bit to be there. So, and that held true for pretty much the entire offseason. So we got a couple of juniors on line too, a couple of good athletic guys. I think, we're never going to be the biggest team up front, so we have to use what we have. And I think, like Noah said, our quickness is really what we're focusing on, right? Getting off the ball and using our speed to our advantage as much as possible.
Gotcha. We got Joshua. He's pretty big.
Yeah, so Josh Dickey is going to be our tight end. He's taking Miles' spot, and Josh is another senior, right? That's put a lot of muscle on this offseason. He's got really strong. And he's
3 years.
Yeah, probably about 6'4", right around 6'4", and about, I don't know, I guess like 210 probably in that range. So he's a big, long, physical, athletic kid who can play the ball very well in the air and can block too. So
I actually completely forgot about Wyatt now that you mention it. I remember covering him during basketball season and talking to you about that actually. But anyway, you're a defensive-minded guy. How's the defense coming?
Yeah, so I think we had replaced quite a few guys, right? But I think we started and losing Marcus at Mike last year. Kind of talked to Noah this offseason. He played a couple of different spots last year, and we've done some different things with him, but it just made the most sense to put him at Mike and let him own that defense. So he's learning the position really quickly and taking ownership of what goes on out there. So I'm excited to see how he performs in that spot. I think he's got some big shoes to fill. Marcus is a really good player, but I have high expectations for Noah that he's gonna meet the mark and exceed it for sure. Getting Angel Garcia back on defense, guys, a stud at nose, right? Was a hard guy to move as a junior, and he's stronger and leaner this year, more athletic, more explosive. Got a couple of good young linebackers. Josh Dickey will start at Sam for us. He's an outside linebacker. Got a couple of good juniors, Robbie San Giacomo and Nick Andrews, who have looked really good in practice so far. Both our corners last year were sophomores, so Caden Parlett and Miles Martin were both sophomores. They'll be starting the secondary for us this year, along with Seth Morrison and Cole Chatinier. I think I said that right. It's a tough last name to pronounce. And then Gianni Natuzzi, Giancarlo Guerrero, a couple other Isaac Dominguez, all kind of guys that we were looking at on the defense line to help us kind of give us some depth there. But it's a good box I think we have this year. I think the linebackers are strong. They're really athletic. They play well in space, and we have a couple of stouter guys at the point of attack this year than we did last year. Although, I mean, Grant Kohler, obviously, even at undersized, didn't really make a lick of difference, right? The kid was a stud. So, but, we're trying to build that same kind of attack, be fast, be aggressive, be multiple in what we present to the offenses as much as we can. So, but I feel good about where we're at. All things considered, we only had a couple of weeks of actual football. So I think I'm happy with our progress so far.
Noah, you're on the defense. Talk a little bit about it.
Well, it's kind of interesting being the guy making the calls now. I'm used to kind of just being, like, listening to the calls. So, it's getting used to that, and I'm doing all right. I know most of the signs I get tongue tied a lot. That's pretty much it. But I trust Coach B and Big Kremen a lot, and they always seem to make the right calls. So I know they got my back, so I'll be all right.
Perfect. So, Brandon, the next question is going to you. Are there any new coaches to your staff? This is the yearly question. New coaches, new additions.
So our varsity staff is relatively intact. I lost longtime JV head coach Dennis Factor, retired at the end of last season. So I moved Spencer Josky, who was my defensive line and special teams coordinator and running back coach for the last 4 years, down to be the JV head coach. The other guys are still there. So Tyler Strebel is still our offensive coordinator. Thomas Coakley does our DBs and helps with the wide receivers. Jake Kremen is our linebacker coach and running back coach this year. Deanna Pashot is our offensive line coach. And then Aiden Willard is going to join our staff for this year, and he's going to help us on the offensive side of the ball with the quarterbacks and wide receivers.
So obviously Aiden Willard is a alum who played at Oregon State. How big is that of a get is he to add to your staff?
Yeah, I think, he's in between things right now. So he just happened to be in town while he's doing digital schooling. So it worked out. He wants to be around the game, and obviously we'd love to have him around. The guy would, having been at Oregon State and been at the highest level of college football in a Power 5 conference. I think he brings a lot of insight to the table just on how to do things, maybe just a little bit differently than what we do. Coach Stribble and I are always looking for ways to tweak what we do. We're never satisfied with our approach. So getting another layer of insight into how to just approach different things is always helpful. So, and it helps having a dude that's on the team, right? They're on the coaching staff. That is a legit dude, right? It just carries, it just carries a different presence, right?
Hudson, you're the quarterback here. How's that change been for you?
It's been good. Having Aiden there with all the experience he has really benefited the quarterbacks, Zach and I. His knowledge of the game and everything he's learned at Oregon State, he's brought along, taught us, and it helps out a lot.
Perfect. So now we're going to talk rankings. You guys obviously made it into the Max Preps North Coast section preseason rankings at number 23. Is that an honor? Can you guys talk a little about that?
You guys want to go first?
I'll go. So I saw that. I think this morning I saw it on the Max Preps app on my phone. I thought it was kind of cool. I like looking at those rankings and just seeing like the teams above us and who they have right behind us and stuff like that. So, it was cool to be on that list and get recognized.
I have Max Preps on my phone. I didn't even know where it ranked.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that either. So I think it's humbling, right, to be included in the list of those kind of schools, right? We're talking about some of the best football schools in California, especially in Northern California, right? So it's humbling to be mentioned with those guys. But rankings without meeting expectation, like it's nice and all, and it's a nice thing to have people recognize the effort that our kids have put into kind of reestablishing our program. And a lot of the credit, all the credit really goes to them and their effort they put into that. And but it is what it is. It's a preseason ranking, right? So we know we gotta, what happens, on the field next Friday is what matters. So
speaking of next Friday, you pointed me down a good path here. Petaluma, what challenges are they going to bring? I know they're a good program that over their history. What do they bring?
Yeah, I mean, a well-established coach, right? Well-established system there, right? So that triple option, we see a lot of veer this year. So having to start with the veer I mean, Noah can talk to you about it because I've been on his butt for the last 2 weeks about making his reads and getting to the right spot. But it's a tough run game to start against, right? I think that a good triple option team, that's the hardest, in my opinion, that's the hardest run game to stop in high school football, right? When you have a quarterback that can make those reads, you have 3 guys that can really carry that ball. So it's a lot of discipline on defense to stop an offense like that. And it's a tough first assignment, that's for sure. And they're very well established at what they do. So
Noah?
I mean, yeah, pretty much as perfect as you can get it. I'd like some film so I can study. I mean,
yeah, it's one of the downsides this year, right? We don't have a
Yeah.
scrimmage to go off of, right? So we don't have anything from Petaluma this year. I mean, they don't on us either, right? So everyone's in the same boat. But that, makes a good point though. That's kind of a tough spot. We're going off last year's film, but if I look at what they did 2 years ago versus us and what they did last year against us, they're similar things, but they're not the same, right? So we have some stuff to work off of, but it's really just an educated guess at this point as to exactly how they're going to approach attacking us this year.
I know you guys beat them last year. What about the year before? Are you guys tied in in their 2 series so
Yeah,
far?
so we lost to them by 3 points our first year. It was a close game. They got up on us really early, really quickly, really early, and then we clawed our way back and just fell a little bit short. So,
Gotcha. So I mean, this going for to go up 2-1 in the series, that's got to actually mean something a little bit more than just playing the game. But yeah, I'd imagine breaking the series tie is going to mean something.
yeah, sure. I mean, I think we're tied with everybody at this point except for Vintage. Vintage has got us 0-2, but I think everybody else we're 1-1 against. So I think I'm trying to remember now.
It's funny.
No, Casa Grande. Sorry, Casa Grande. We're also 0-2 against Casa Grande since we got in the league. So we don't get a chance to play them this year, but everyone else we're in that kind of similar boat, kind of that tiebreaker match. So
Well, you talk about the 1-1 series. While we were talking beforehand, we were talking about American Canyon. That will be your regular season finale. That game is obviously taking on new meaning because obviously we've got Napa and Vintage playing each other. So what does that mean to face American Canyon at the end of the season, and what type of challenge is that at the end of a long, hard season?
I mean, American Canyon's always tough, right? They're going to be fast. They're going to be physical. They're going to be well coached. We've played them in 2 really tight ball games. The first year it went their way. The second year went our way. But I expect, we'll see another, really tight, physical, hard played, hard fought game.
yeah, they're always big and physical. Fun guys though.
Hudson?
Yeah, that game last year was a lot of fun for us. I wasn't on varsity when, we played them our first year in VVAL, but I think it's definitely an exciting game for us, to end the year off with. And, it's always it was a hard fought physical game last year, and I expect nothing less this year.
So what's it been like not having a 7-on-7 to go to do this off season? You guys are a passing first team. Has that affected you in any way? Brandon, start with you.
I mean, you never want to lose reps as a coach, right? Reps are such a crucial part. And I think especially in an offense every offense really, and every defense, every coach wants more reps, right? There's one thing that we know to be true is that coaches can always use more reps. So we're never satisfied with that stuff. I don't know. I think Hudson may be better suited to answer how it's going to impact us offensively. I just kind of how he feels with the receivers and all the stuff we've been doing.
Hudson?
Yeah, the lack of 7-on-7, as you would think, it would impact us a lot negatively, but I think, our receiving core this year, we're really tight knit. We played together on JV, and, we built that chemistry, pretty quickly in the last month or so. So I think the lack of it, at first seemed like it would have been a big deal, but now it doesn't seem to have affected us rather than just the loss of reps.
Gotcha. So, and I know this is going to be a hard question to answer, but you guys have been in the semifinals the last 2 seasons. So not having the playoffs for this weird season, what's the reaction there? I know players, it kind of obviously hurt your senior year, but Brandon, why don't you start?
I mean, obviously you want the playoffs, right? You want a chance to play for championships, right? That's what we do, right? That's always our goal. We want to play for the section title. Now we've fallen short the last few years, but we've also won a lot, over the last course of 20 years here at Justin-Siena. So not having that goal is tough, but I really think at the end of the day, the fact that we're going to get any games at all is it feels like a win. So I don't want to speak for the boys, but that's how I feel.
Players?
Yeah, I think Coach B said it best. Just the fact that we're even playing this year is amazing to us. So, the lack of playoffs is kind of irrelevant at this point. We're just excited to be playing some games.
Noah?
It is what it is. We're speaking to play.
Let's see here. Is there anything else I have to ask? We're just moving right along here, but let's see. What about the film study of this whole thing? I mean, you guys, from what I understand, you can't do in-person film. So how's that been? Like, all the preparation of a week is kind of thrown out the window, right? So how's that going to look when you guys get into game week next week?
Sure. I think for us, we have a couple of advantages. Generally, a small team is not an advantage, but in this case, in our ability to get into a space and be safely distanced and whatnot, we have buildings on our campus that can handle 25 guys, because that's what we're sitting at on varsity level this year. So there's definitely film work to be done. Fortunately, our offensive coordinator also is in charge of our media center, which is a big building with a lot of space and a big projector and a really big screen. So we have access to that facility, which is helpful for us. But Zoom also is a good tool, right? We've been doing Zoom installs since, I don't know, when did we start, Phil? It was like late in May, I think. We started Zoom installs before we actually started field work. So the biggest hiccup with Zoom, or the biggest issue with Zoom right now, is like, because we're on it all day at school, it's like I don't want to say it feels like a chore, but Zoom is going to be a great tool when it's not required to be on it all the time. That's kind of where I'm at with it, right? Like, it's such a great way to do something like this, or like to have like coaches meetings, right, where we don't have to be on campus necessarily, or install meetings with players. The problem with Zoom, though, in my experience, is that video doesn't really translate all that well on Zoom. So when I try to share my screen and video it's very choppy. So we're lucky enough to have facilities, and our school, we're back to, pushing back towards normal school now. So we're going to have more kids in classes than we're going to have on our team at some point. So in some respects, it's not a huge issue for us. As some of the bigger schools that might have 50 or 60 kids in their team, trying to find a space for that's going to be a little bit more challenging.
Players, you want to talk about the preparation about during a week and all that kind of stuff? Now that sounds like you guys are getting back to normal.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much.
Yeah, this week the
Go ahead.
seniors started back full time, so we're on campus. We're 4 days a week. We have that wellness day sometime in the week, but I think being on campus has helped us a lot. A lot of us take a study hall, so we can find a way to work with Coach Streblo in study hall if we get all our work done, or But Zoom was definitely a really good tool to use when we were doing our install stuff, and we all have Huddle. We're watching film on that on our own time. So
Noah?
Yeah, I mean, prep is what you do, and it's all at home too. Just use your time wisely, I guess.
Fortunately for us, both these guys are film junkies. So I taught Noah as a sophomore, and I used to have to yell at him in class to stop watching film in class and pay attention when I was actually teaching them. So not too often I say that to kids, but
To be fair, in history, I never got anything wrong, Coach.
that's fair. That is fair. That is you're not wrong there.
I can't speak on that, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just looking around here. I think that'll do it. Thank you guys very much for your time. We have been joined once again by Brandon LaRocco, Noah Young, and Hudson Beers. Any final thoughts, guys, before we end this?
Fellas.
I'm just excited to play. Can't wait to get out there next week.
See you in the shed.
I don't know what that means. I'm laughing, but I'm not sure I know what that means. I think I'll echo Hudson's sentiment. I'm excited to get back on the field, and after everything we've been through, everyone's been through, right? To get these kids back out there, and not just our kids, all these kids, right? All these kids in California that have kind of had sports dangled in front of them for the last 6-7 months, right? It's a big win for our kids. And I think that's the most important thing. Obviously we want to win. We want to be competitive, right? We want to win every game, right? Our goal is always to win every game, but I think this is one of those years where just the moral victory itself is a pretty big one. So I'm not usually a big moral victory guy, but I think this year just getting on the field and playing games, right? Whatever happens is going to happen. But it's a big win.
Gotcha.
Yeah, on a serious note, yeah, I agree with those guys.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and this will end this right here.